Hello and welcome in.
Please do not leave your luggage unattended on the station.
Welcome to the show. All right, welcome in. Second intermission. Megan, that was better. Not great, but better. Avs down 4-1. They get the only goal of the second period. Nathan MacKinnon finds the back of the net on a really nice shot. Although the issue, Megan, is that was the period you wanted to see them have in the first period.
They climb ahead in the shots battle. Now the possession battle favors them on the whole, despite such a bad first period, because they played so well, controlled the puck, lot better opportunities to passing plays, more chances on net, forcing Buffalo to come up with saves. And that's what Buffalo received. And I think that's the difference maker coming out of what was otherwise a great second period from the Avs. The creation was exactly what you needed to see it be. Some better and more dangerous looks from Colorado. That top line looked a lot better too. They kind of had a rough first period. Second line also seemed to be figuring some things out with some great looks from Kovalenko in particular. But it does feel a little frustrating then to also see that they're capable of this. Like, well, where was some of this in the first? And I think it goes back to this conversation around how your confidence or lack thereof in your goaltender can absolutely affect the way that you play in front of him, even though it shouldn't. It does.
I do think in a really weird way, that period underscored the goaltending issues, and we'll get into that. Talk a little bit about Scott Wedgwood, and then we will also talk a little bit about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who was outstanding in net for the Buffalo Sabres in that second period. But, Megan, I didn't see it when it was at this point, but our good friend Corey Masisak from the Denver Post pointed out at one point the Avs were down 9-0 in scoring chances. So not high danger, just scoring chances. Favored Buffalo 9-0. That period ends. The Avs lead 24-21 in scoring chances, including generating 20 in the second period alone. So it was a much better period for the Avs. I thought they pushed play. I thought they played with more urgency. I thought they looked desperate. The only part that's frustrating, and I mentioned this to you during that period, why a team that's this veteran, a team with this much experience, a team with the level of players that they've got, why did it take a 4-0 deficit and in full intermission for them to be able to get the gears turning in the way that we thought they would? And you're now in a situation where Buffalo can just kind of sit back and defend.
Absolutely. And I think that can be a small factor too in why they have a better second period. They're not getting the best from Buffalo on their end because they are settling in a little bit to this game. But I do think it's because it's not a new problem for the Avs, not having good first periods. We've described it a number of different ways. We've used the words energy. We've talked about sleepy starts. And I do think that some of what caught them on poor back checking, poor rush coverage in that first period does point to something relating to the energy just not being there, because they disallowed so many of those types of opportunities in the second. It's what allowed them to control the possession and get a little bit more dangerous. No power play opportunities in the second period, but 5v5. They're able to create 6 high danger opportunities, whereas they had 0 in the first period. You have to touch the puck to be able to do that. They just really didn't in the first period.
Well, and again, the other issue for me in the first period, there was too much. We use the term in that first intermission, laying down. There just wasn't enough compete. There wasn't enough battle in the Colorado Avalanche in that first period. And I thought that was the thing that I noticed that changed the most. They were contesting pucks. They weren't letting Buffalo Sabres players skate through the neutral zone unchecked. You know, like they were aggressive on the puck. And even Scott Wedgwood, who we are going to get into here in just a little bit, I thought was battling hard to find pucks and to make saves, didn't give any up in that second period, and allowed the Avs to close the gap. It's 4-1. You have a 3-goal deficit you're trying to overcome in the third period, but it didn't get any worse. Megan, how many times have we talked about, I think Semyon Varlamov is maybe the best example of this, of a goalie that I've covered in my time of, yeah, you might give up a good one or a bad one, or you're down 2. All right, no more. I'm giving our team a chance to get back in this. I haven't been good enough, but no more. That's something I feel like Georgiev has struggled with. And Scott Wedgwood, there's still a period to go, so I'm not crowning him anything yet. But Scott Wedgwood came into this game, and thus far, I don't know if people are going to like this because people are going to be quick to point out that Georgiev is problematic in this game. This is exactly why the Avs added a guy like Scott Wedgwood. He has been able to come in and stop the bleeding. They did not trade for him to be the savior, solve the problems, your goaltending issues are fixed, but he's been able to come in and stop the bleeding in this game and at least allow his team the chance to get their footing. You go back to the Tampa Bay game, that was not something that it felt like the Avs ever got the chance to do in that game, was climb back into it. They've at least got a fighting chance at getting back into this one.
Yeah, because in talking about Buffalo settling into this game, they didn't completely give up in the second period. 5 high danger chances of their own. Scott Wedgwood had to come up with saves to include 11 seconds into the second period on a Zucker wrister. Shortly after that, JJ Peterka, and late in the game, that kind of net front scramble. Actually, there's 2 instances that come to mind. There's one a little earlier than what ultimately caused the Avs to take a penalty in the final moments. But even before that, there's a Byram chance that led to a Tuck chance up front. And he's covering pucks despite the chaos in front of him. He's not allowing that to be an excuse. You know, the Avs net front coverage can be called into question at times. Wedgwood isn't allowing that to be an excuse in this game, to include then later in this game where the puck is on his back and he is rolling with it to ensure that it rolls off of him and not drop back behind
false
him.
Forward, yep.
And we kind of laughed that Georgiev has this moment in this game where the puck goes behind him. And this is the one where we said he might have had a case for goalie interference. But it's as if when that puck is no longer in his line of vision, it's not his problem.
Right.
Whereas Wedgwood has this complete contrast of a reaction there where he's rolling a 360 to make sure that puck doesn't drop back behind him. And I think that just speaks to what you're describing in his level of compete that kept the Avs in this, to include needing to kill late in this period and keep Buffalo from garnering any more goals. Yeah.
Not a lot of vibes have been high in this game, Megan, and we don't have the disco lights, but we do have a new member here. Keaton Schneider, welcome to the Guerilla fam. Thank you. We'll get you a disco light welcome when we move back to the podcast set here for shows later this week. Thank you, Keaton. Megan, let's go to the other end of the ice here and talk a little bit about Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. The reason I said at the start of this this second intermission show is the reason I said that this period maybe underscored the importance of goaltending. In my opinion, the Avs took it to the Buffalo Sabres maybe even harder than the Sabres took it to the Avs in the first. A lot of quality chances. For my money, this game could very easily be 4-3. Maybe if you're really using some burgundy-colored glasses, 4-4. Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen comes up with big save after big save after big save to keep this one 4-1, including an outstanding backdoor stop.
Absolutely. He's been outstanding for Buffalo, and I think his goaltending has been steady for them throughout this year. And that's something that the Avs just need to anticipate and fight through a little bit. Some good looks, Lehkonen in the slot at one point, an earlier look from Middlestad off a feed from Kovalenko in this game. And I think that he's come up on some of Colorado's best. A Kiviranta chance, actually. Yep, backhanded the puck on net too. Maybe not as dangerous as some of those other shooters I just mentioned. But one, I like to see that the Avs clearly were back in this game from the start. Nathan MacKinnon being a player, their resets and reloads to re-enter even after possession had finished, I think spoke to a little bit more of a killer instinct from the Avs. And I love to see that from MacKinnon, who followed that great shift up by getting a goal in this game. I think he was rewarded for his efforts. And that's exactly what they're going to have to do to get pucks past Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, because he's playing very well. And it's going to take their very best from Colorado's end to try and cut into this goal deficit that they've created for themselves.
Scott Wedgwood told us when we talked to him when he got to town a couple days ago that one of the most challenging parts about playing against the Avalanche is the fact that you can feel like you've got a game put away. You can feel like your team is comfortably in the lead. And in the blink of an eye, that comfortability is gone or you find yourself in a tie game. It's a 3-goal deficit. The Avs need to come out. You and I were saying we would have really liked to see one there at the end of that period, just so you're heading into the third period with a 2-goal deficit that suddenly feels much, much, much more manageable. If you can get one early, you're in this game. You're in this game. And again, we got a period to go. There's still plenty that can happen. I don't want to get too carried away with Scott Wedgwood, but like I said earlier, this is if you had pulled the goaltender. By the way, shout out to our you and I good friend Rudo, who we both worked with in the past, pointed out this is the 6th time, Megan, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times that the Avs have pulled their goaltender with a sub 700 save percentage. 6. That is more than 20% of the season. That is not acceptable. If you had Jussi Sandin on this team, how comfortable would Jared Bednar have felt pulling Alexander Georgiev? Would you have felt like the bleeding was going to stop? How comfortable would the team have felt had Jussi Sandin gone in? You're in this game, Megan. Technically.
It's
technically in this game.
It's frustrating because there hasn't been an instance where the game has clearly gotten to Georgiev's head and it's been something positive that he could draw from, turn it into something productive. It has always ended with his night ending because a few more goals were allowed following that emotional outburst.
Yes.
And I think that's what's frustrating. You know, when Nathan MacKinnon, who similarly has emotional outbursts, gets angry in games, he can usually find ways to turn that into something productive.
He's got a nickname. Angry Nate.
Angry Nate. You got to be a little bit scared about what comes out the other side of Nate. The trouble with Georgiev is we only know one outcome, and it results in his night being over because he couldn't stop more pucks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's frustrating. It doesn't bring out the best in him for him to get emotional, and it's still clearly not something that he has gotten a handle on. And unfortunately, the first 20 minutes of this game can tell the whole story of it.
Mm-hmm.
As much as the Avs try to climb back in the final 20, I'm still giving them a chance. 3 goals is a steep mountain to climb, especially when the goalie opposite them isn't Georgiev. He's playing pretty well, and he has pretty consistently.
We were just looking at the replay again of that save that Scott Wedgwood. But yes, I
just wanted to say
I was going to say any excuse to say the name that Scott Wedgwood made late in that period, and he stops it, and you can tell he feels it rolling over his back, so he rotates, falling forward, pushing that puck forward. You just won't convince me that that isn't contagious to the rest of the guys on the team. This guy is in his first game with our team. He's still got yellow pads. He's still got Wolverine on his helmet, and he's out here battling, giving us a chance to get back into this game. I want to see how this impacts the rest of the Avs roster coming out here at the start of the third. After having a good second, can you build on that, and can you draw a little bit of motion from your new backup goaltender who's in there competing, giving you a chance to get back into a game that you were out of? You had a 3-goal deficit. Can they come out and get one early and make this interesting? That's what I want to see. Look, you fell behind 4-0. You got to live with what comes after that. I want to see them make this a game. That can be the only way that you can salvage any part of this at the start of a long road trip, is to come out with the pushback here and make this a game.
It's a pride component. It's
Yes.
the key difference in what I didn't like about the Tampa Bay game. A game I didn't need them to win, but the way in which they lost it was too embarrassing. I want to see them fight and make this one close. It's going to be frustrating no matter what if they don't get a winning result, but they have a say in how this one ends. And I think looking at Scott Wedgwood, he is drenched in sweat right now. You can see the bright blue yellow pad under his gear.
Under his gear.
And I love it. He comes in cold, but he is working so hard to give them a chance to get back into this game. And that's what I want to see the Avs reward. You know, to your point, is it contagious? They see him battling hard. Can they meet him where he's at?
I also, last thing here, as we're getting close to puck drop for the third period, Casey Middlestat has not had a great game here in his return to Buffalo. It'd be nice to see him get a little bit of fire under his butt and have a strong third period here. I think what you just said there is spot on, Megan. It's a pride component here. Can you come out and play with some pride and make this a game and make it interesting and give yourself something to build on? if you can come back in this game, great. Fantastic. You fell behind 4-0. It does not happen very often for you to be able to climb back into that game. But if you can, at bare minimum, make it interesting, I think you're going to give your team some juice and something to build on moving forward. We're just looking at highlights from the first period, and it's just frustrating, Megan. I can't even imagine how they're feeling.
Yeah, I hope to, with Buffalo seeming to settle a little bit in the second period, they've lulled them into a false sense of security, so the Avs can come out a little bit angry and hungry to make this a little more competitive.
Yeah, I'm with you. Any final thoughts before we drop the puck here? Anything else? All right. Again, always big thank you to our friends over at Trusted American Mortgage. Go to trustedamerican.com, see how much they can save you, have them help you lower your interest rate now on your mortgage. That's Meghan Angley. I'm Jesse Montano. John behind the glass tonight. Third period, Avs Sabres coming up. We'll be right back here after the game to break it all down. We'll see if the Avs can make this one interesting here in the third. We'll talk to you soon, folks.